Hello, Santa Barbara. My name is Daniel Zia. I'm the founder and CEO of Zia Group here with eXp Realty in Santa Barbara and Montecito in the Central Coast, covering both Santa Barbara County and Ventura County. And I'm here to deliver our promise to be your real estate economist of choice. And I'm going to be delivering to you the South Santa Barbara County April real estate market update. This is going to go over retroactively all of the sales statistics that we have year to date up until the end of March. So as you guys know, it's actually been a wet year for Santa Barbara. Everything is lush and green. The creeks are flowing. Hiking is some of the most beautiful that it ever has been. Frankly, it kind of feels more like Hawaii than Santa Barbara to me, but I'm not complaining. But it's been a very wet green year, which usually when it's wet outside, we see less sales activity. But this year we have kind of a surprising turn of events from that perspective. And we actually have more sales than last year by a substantial margin. So that's great. Interest rates, which were a little lower at the beginning of the year, and we were hopeful for 5 to 6 drops in interest rates by the end of the year. That's been tapered as a lot of the economic data, which may or may not have been bolstered up a little bit in advance of this coming election, when some of that retroactive data has either been corrected or shown to be more positive. One of the things that we're seeing is that as that positive economic data keeps coming back, it is tempering the expectations for the number of interest rate drops this year. It went from 5 to 6 going into this year until now. People's best case estimates are maybe 1 and 2. So we have had those interest rates start to kind of gradually go back up. We're definitively in kind of the low to mid 7s right now, which isn't amazing, but historically it's still a lot better than it's been in the past. And it's not really tapering the number of sales right now. One of the things that we have this year compared to last year is we have seen a dramatic jump up in the amount of available available inventory. What that does is when you have more homes to sell, you guys heard me say this all of last year, as I said, hey, the number one reason why we're not selling homes is we don't have enough sellers raising their hands willing to sell. So now we have a lot more home sellers actually raising their hand to sell, which is great news. And correspondingly, we're seeing a far more greater number of homes actually come on the market and sell. Home prices are actually going up, which is nice depending on which data you look at. The median sales price year to date is up 7%. The average sales price is up 4%. So between 4 and 7% increase this year to date over last year to date. So that's great. Properties are seeing a little bit greater of a discount in negotiation, and you're seeing about a 4% discount on average off of the asking price, or 5% discount off of the original asking price, with the difference being if the seller has done any price reductions since they first came on the market. That's the difference between those two statistics. Now, I don't want you to think that when you go to place an offer on a home, you can just go 4 to 5% below the asking price and secure the property. That's absolutely not the case, because there's still tons of examples of properties selling with multiple offers going above the asking price, and in some cases dramatically so. We had a listing up on the Riviera for $3,895,000. We had 7 offers we were able to generate for the seller, and it sold, I'm not kidding, over $1 million above the asking price, $1,050,000 above the asking price to be exact. So again, some situations you're going to be able to get a 10% discount off of a property. Other situations you're going to have to go 10% above the asking price, and that's why working with a true fiduciary and expert like a Zia Group Realtor partner it best serves you to know which of that delta. So you're not only securing the property more often, but you're making sure you're not overpaying unless you have to get your dream property and to accomplish your goals. Kind of looking here at my notes here. As far as inventory goes, we have seen 27% more active listings. That's it, all active in that kind of range, and 20% more listings come on the market. So there's a slight difference between how many homes are sitting on the market available to be shopped and how many new home listings came on. So 20% more home listings come on, which is really interesting because that's almost exactly the number of increased pendings. Pendings are properties that have gone into escrow but haven't closed yet. Year to date, when you look at the number of properties that have gone into escrow, it's almost exactly 20%. And we've had almost exactly 20% new listings. And so that ratio often holds true in our market. Is our market's going to be as active positive from a sales standpoint as we have home sellers willing to sell until we get to a certain point where we have way more home sellers raising their hands and we don't have the buyer demand to keep up. And that's generally when you see price softening. I'm not anticipating that this year, but we'll see what happens with the economy. When we look specifically at the luxury market of Hope Ranch and Montecito and beachfront property, overall, we're still seeing those homes sell in just kind of a few months, generally 2 to 3 months on the market. It's a little bit slower this year compared to last year, and on average, we're seeing a greater discount in the luxury market compared to the affordable market. That's pretty true. Some luxury sellers are selling, sometimes they're asking millions of dollars above what they're anticipating to get, and they're frankly often factoring in more negotiation in the luxury market because they're bigger numbers than in the affordable market. So generally, we're seeing a 10 to 11% discount in the asking price compared to what those properties are actually selling from. Now, when you look at the inventory in the luxury market, there are quite a few additional listings this year versus last year. To put that in context, in this March, there were 40 available luxury homes for buyers to shop for. Last year, there was only 25, so it's 60% more inventory this year over last year. We're not seeing 60% more sales, but the buyers do have a lot more selection, and that's one of the reasons why there's maybe a little bit more movement in the price compared to last year, because the supply-demand economics has changed slightly. Highest sales price in Montecito last month was $319 San Ysidro Road, and that was $32 million. And then there was a condo in Montecito that closed for $4.5 million, which was the highest sales price condo last month, and that was on Plaza Pacifica. Condos in general, speaking of condos, are selling for about 100% of their asking price. A little bit longer days on market, so it's taking a little longer to sell a condo this year versus last year. Last year, it was taking 2 to 3 weeks to sell. This year, more like 4 to 6 weeks. Year to date, we still are seeing more sales in the condo market with about 10% more sales. But this is the really interesting factor is why the single-family home market and the market as a whole is up that 4 to 7%. Condos, actually, the median sales price and average sales price is down 9 to 11%. So it may just happen to be that the, 60 or so condos that have come on the market and the percentage of those that have sold just happen to be lower priced condos versus last year and less luxury condos. Or it could be that the condo market is just the buyers are just finding condos less attractive this year versus last year. We'll see in the next number of months as we get a larger sample size to compare. But overall, market has not just stable like last year. Market has actually picked up over last year. We are seeing overall a little bit of appreciation this year, which we didn't say last year. So a lot of home owners and home sellers are excited about that. And I would expect it just to be a steady, fairly strong market this year as with the elections, I think everything is going to continue to try to be bolstered up. That doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you're on. That's true of any election year. Everyone's trying to make things look as good as possible, which usually gives us a pretty good sales year there from a real estate standpoint. So there you have it. If you have any questions about what the market's doing and how it applies specifically to your situation, real estate is very local and it's very contextual. So please do reach out. We're happy to do a private, in-depth consultation for you, and happy to share that. And then one last note, you may have seen some media hype headlines about how real estate commissions are changing and the real estate profession is massively changing. I just want to kind of step into that and say, hey, not all of that is finalized yet, but the media headlines, like a lot of media headlines, really aren't accurate. There's a few things that are going to be potentially changing or probably changing in the next few months, just to have a heads up. The first is that if you are a home shopper, you may not even be able to see a home without actually signing some form of agency relationship with a buyer's agent. That buyer-agency relationship is being clarified like it has been for years and years on the seller side, and how a lot of buyer agents have already been done. It doesn't really affect you, but you need to be aware that that's coming. That's going to be a lot more paperwork, but I think overall it's going to be good. I hope buyers are far more educated and there's a lot more clarity between the buyer agent and buyer relationship. I think that's been needed there. It is our full anticipation that sellers are still going to be offering cooperating commissions to buyers agents, so just be aware of that. A lot of all these media headlines saying, hey, there's no going to be any more buyer agent commission. That's not true. It just means that in some small percentage of the time, a buyer may be paying for part or all of the buyer agent commission. So it's really important to make sure that you're not just working with a friend or family member. You're truly working with a professional who you would be willing to pay in a worst case scenario to represent you. Now, again, this is, I think, going to be a very, very small percentage of the chance. I think in most cases, sellers are still going to cover that or being willing to negotiate for that as part of that process. And a good buyer's agent's going to be make sure that you're not going to have to pay for that yourself. So that's the main thing. And then from a compensation standpoint, in the local multiple listing service, real estate agents aren't going to necessarily be able to specify that cooperating brokerage commission to those buyer agents. They've been able to do that. It's been a very clear process, which I actually think is very good. So everyone knows what that's going to look like, but that's going to go away, unfortunately. And it just means that that's going to be happening one-on-one. A buyer agent's going to call a listing agent and ask what that cooperating brokerage commission is. And then it's going to go to the buyer and just make sure to tell the buyer, hey, you're not going to have to pay anything here. It's already covered by the seller, like we've been doing it for decades. And that's going to give buyers peace of mind. So those are the changes there. If you have any questions, reach out. We're happy to walk you through it. Media headlines, like I said, are usually distort the situation or often distort the situation. And we're happy to give you a frank, candid assessment of what it's going to be and how it might affect you. Reach out. Until then, we will see you next month. Stay dry and hopefully enjoy the beautiful sun we're going to have and some of the most epic hiking we have ever seen here in Santa Barbara. Take care.